The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the HSS Defiant as it patrolled the outer edges of the Omega sector. Captain Jack Stone stood on the bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays. 20 years of combat had left their mark on him, a scar across his right cheek, gray streaking through his dark hair, and eyes that had seen too much death. "Captain, long-range scanners are picking up something," said Lisa Gray, her fingers dancing across her console. "Multiple signatures, a lot of them." Stone moved to her station. "How many?" 50, no, 53 vessels. Configuration matches Krell warships." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Tom Reed, the first officer, exchanged glances with the captain. 53 against 1, Reed said quietly. "We should alert command and retreat to safer space." Stone's jaw tightened. "No. Sir. The Defiant stays." Reed stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Captain, with all due respect, that's suicide. We can't possibly." "I didn't ask for your opinion, Commander," Stone cut him off. "The Krell took everything from me 5 years ago when they glassed New Terra. My home, my family." His eyes hardened. "Now we have a chance to strike back." "With one ship?" Reed pressed. Stone tapped his command console, bringing up schematics of the Defiant. "Not just any ship. Engineering, what's the status of Project Thunderbolt?" Mike Davis's voice crackled over the comm. "Untested, Captain. The phase disruptors are operational, but we've never used them in actual combat. The simulations were promising, but today they get their field test," Stone interrupted. "Prepare the systems." Davis hesitated. "Sir, if the calibrations are off by even 0.03%, the feedback could tear this ship apart." "Then don't be off by 0.03%, Stone replied. "You're the best engineer in the fleet, Davis. Make it work." Throughout the ship, crew members rushed to battle stations. Some exchanged worried glances, others wrote quick messages to loved ones they might never see again. The Defiant hummed with nervous energy as weapon systems charged and defensive shields powered up to maximum. In engineering, Davis worked frantically, his hands flying over complex machinery. "Come on, baby," he muttered to the experimental system. "Don't let me down now." On the bridge, Stone settled into his command chair. "Officer Gray, open a channel to the Krell fleet." "Channel open, sir." Stone straightened his uniform. "This is Captain Jack Stone of the Human Systems ship Defiant. You are in human territory. Turn your fleet around or face the consequences." The main screen flickered, revealing a Krell commander, reptilian features, dark scales, yellow eyes filled with contempt. One human vessel against the might of the Krell Empire? The alien's voice was deep, almost amused. "Your species always did have more courage than sense." "It's not courage," Stone replied coldly. "It's justice." The Krell commander hissed. "Your ship will be destroyed, and we will continue our advance into your territory. There is nothing you can do to stop us." "We'll see about that." Stone cut the transmission with a slashing gesture. Reed approached again. "Orders, Captain. Bring us about, heading 030 Mark 72. Full power to forward shields." Stone activated the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is the captain. I won't lie to you, we're outnumbered and outgunned. But the Defiant has teeth they haven't seen before. Hold fast and do your duty." Stone out. The massive Krell fleet appeared on visual now, a wall of dark, angular vessels bristling with weapons, advancing in perfect formation. Their size made the Defiant seem like little more than a toy boat facing a hurricane. Davis's voice came through. "Project Thunderbolt is online, Captain. It's as ready as it'll ever be." Stone nodded. Stand by to activate on my mark. Sir, Lisa called out, they're charging weapons. All vessels targeting us. The first officer looked at his captain. This is it, then. Stone's hand hovered over the command to activate the experimental system. The Krell think they know humanity. They think they know what we're capable of. A grim smile crossed his face. They're about to learn differently. 53 Krell ships opened fire simultaneously, space itself seeming to warp with the concentrated energy directed at the lone human vessel. Now, Davis! Stone shouted. Activate Thunderbolt. The experimental system surged to life as the wall of enemy fire rushed toward them. The Defiant shuddered as Project Thunderbolt activated. A high-pitched whine filled the bridge, and the lights flickered ominously. Captain Stone gripped his command chair as the ship trembled beneath him. Davis, status, he barked into the comm. The system's drawing more power than anticipated. Davis's voice strained over the cacophony of alarms in engineering. Containment fields holding at 87% and dropping. On the main view screen, the wall of Krell energy weapons bore down on them, certain death hurtling across the void. But just as the barrage was about to hit, something remarkable happened. A rippling blue-white field extended from the Defiant, expanding outward in a perfect sphere. When the Krell weapon's fire made contact with this field, the energy didn't explode against shields as expected. Instead, it seemed to bend. It's working! Davis shouted. The phase disruptors are redirecting their energy signatures. The crew watched in awe as the incoming fire twisted around their vessel, curving away like water around a stone. More incredibly, the redirected energy streaked back toward the Krell fleet, striking several of their own ships. 3 enemy vessels erupted in flame as their own weapons' fire tore through their hulls. How is this possible? Reed asked, stunned. Stone's eyes gleamed. Project Thunderbolt doesn't just block attacks, it reflects them. The more power they throw at us, the more we send back. The Krell commander's face appeared on screen again, his reptilian features contorted with rage. What trickery is this? Cease fire. All ships cease fire. But it was too late. The Krell fleet's coordinated attack had already launched, and now those energy beams were being redirected in chaotic patterns throughout their formation. Ships that had fired from the rear found their weapons' energy curving back to strike allies closer to the front. They're in disarray, Lisa reported. Their formation is breaking. Stone leaned forward. Now it's our turn. Weapons, target their command vessel with conventional torpedoes. The Defiant's torpedo tubes glowed hot as they launched a salvo at the Krell flagship. Without coordinated defensive fire, 4 torpedoes struck home, sending the massive vessel listing to one side. We've damaged their command ship, the weapons officer shouted. But aboard the Defiant, not all was well. The deck plates began to vibrate violently, and the air filled with the smell of burnt circuitry. Davis, what's happening? Stone demanded. System overload. The disruptors weren't designed to handle this much feedback. We've got maybe 2 minutes before the whole thing melts down. Stone nodded grimly. Then we make those 2 minutes count. All weapons, target any damaged vessels. Let's thin their numbers while we can. The Defiant swooped through the disorganized Krell formation, its conventional weapons striking with precision as the enemy fleet struggled to regroup. 7 more Krell ships exploded under the human vessel's assault. 1 minute left on Thunderbolt. Davis warned. Stone assessed the tactical display. They'd managed to destroy or cripple nearly a quarter of the Krell fleet, an impossible achievement for a single ship, but 40 vessels remained, and once Thunderbolt failed, they would be defenseless. All hands, prepare for emergency jump, he ordered. Navigator, plot a course to the nearest pulsar. Reed looked alarmed. The magnetic field will tear us apart. Not if we stay in the shadow zone, Stone replied. But the Krell won't know that. As Thunderbolt began to fail, its protective field flickering erratically, Stone gave the order. Jump now. The Defiant vanished in a flash of light, leaving behind a confused and wounded Krell fleet, and a legend that was just beginning to form. The Defiant tore through spacetime, the emergency jump driving the ship to its structural limits. When they re-emerged, the brilliant, deadly light of the Omega pulsar dominated the view screen. Position us in the shadow zone, Stone ordered, his voice steady despite the sweat beading on his forehead. Minimal power signature. Let them think we're crippled. The massive neutron star spun before them, shooting deadly radiation in regular pulses across the cosmos. The Defiant nestled into position behind a field of dense asteroid debris, hidden in the shadow where the pulsar's lethal emissions couldn't reach. Damage report, Stone commanded. Reed scanned his console grimly. Thunderbolts completely fried. We've got hull breaches on decks 4 through 6, sealed by emergency force fields. Life support at 82%. Weapons at 60% capacity. Davis's voice came through, ragged with exhaustion. Captain, the main drive needs at least 30 minutes before we can jump again. I've got teams working on the critical systems, but... Understood, Stone replied. Do what you can. Lisa turned from her station. Captain, sensors detect the Krell fleet has regrouped. They're scanning for us, and they're heading this way. Stone nodded. He'd expected this. They know we're damaged. They'll come looking to finish the job. Sir, Reed said quietly, even with our initial success, we're still one ship against 40. We can't win this fight. Stone's eyes never left the tactical display. We don't need to win, Commander. We just need to survive long enough. Long enough for what? Before Stone could answer, Lisa cut in urgently. Krell vessels entering the system. 38 ships detected. They're spreading out in a search pattern. Stone smiled grimly. Right on schedule. Now we see if those reptiles can be as predictable as I'm counting on. He pointed to the pulsar on the main screen. That, Commander Reed, is our real weapon now. And the Krell are about to fly right into its maw. Captain Stone moved to the tactical display, gesturing for his officers to gather around. His finger traced the path of the pulsar's radiation beam as it swept through space like a deadly lighthouse. The pulsar completes one rotation every 8.3 minutes, he explained. When it pulses, anything caught in its beam that isn't properly shielded gets fried: ships, systems, organic matter. Everything. Reed studied the display. But the Krell have radiation shielding. Standard shielding, yes, Stone replied. But not enough for a direct pulsar hit. And there's something else. He highlighted a region near their position. This asteroid field contains high concentrations of thorium. When the pulsar's radiation hits it. Davis, who had joined them on the bridge, finished the thought. It creates a cascade effect, amplifying the radiation by nearly 300%. Exactly, Stone nodded. The Krell don't know about this particular quirk of Omega pulsar. It's not in any standard star charts. Lisa looked up from her console. Enemy fleet is establishing a standard search grid. First vessels approaching the radiation zone in approximately 6 minutes. Stone turned to Davis. Can you rig our remaining torpedoes with thorium from the asteroids? The engineer scratched his stubbled chin. Theoretically, yes. We could create thorium dust payloads. But we'd need to get out there to collect the material. Do it, Stone ordered. Take a shuttle. You have 5 minutes. As Davis rushed off, Stone continued outlining his plan. We'll launch the modified torpedoes into these 3 sectors, he indicated key points on the display. When the pulsar sweeps past, the thorium will amplify the radiation burst. Any Krell ship in those zones will be completely disabled. And if they detect our shuttle? Reed asked. Then we fight, Stone said simply. But the Krell are arrogant. They're looking for a damaged warship, not a tiny collection shuttle. Lisa monitored her console tensely. For minutes until Krell ships enter the radiation zone. Pulsar rotation aligning in 7 minutes. Outside, Davis and a small team worked frantically, maneuvering their shuttle between asteroids, collecting the precious thorium. The clock was ticking as the unsuspecting Krell fleet moved steadily closer to their position. Stone watched the display, eyes narrowed. Now we see who understands the battlefield better, he murmured. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is simply knowing when to get out of the way. Shuttle returning to Bay 3, announced the deck officer. Engineer Davis reports thorium collection complete. Stone nodded, his eyes fixed on the tactical display where red dots representing Krell vessels moved ever closer. Time to pulsar peak radiation? 2 minutes, 40 seconds, Reed replied, checking the countdown. Davis burst onto the bridge, face streaked with sweat and space dust. We've modified 6 torpedoes with thorium payloads. They won't explode, they'll disperse thorium dust clouds in a 5-kilometer radius. Perfect, Stone said. Load them immediately. Target these coordinates. He marked 3 key points on the display, areas where the Krell search pattern would intersect with the pulsar's radiation beam. The weapons officer worked quickly. Torpedoes armed and ready, sir. Launch torpedoes 1 and 2, Stone ordered. The Defiant shuddered slightly as the modified weapons launched silently into space, heading toward their programmed destinations. Torpedoes away, the weapons officer confirmed. Reaching dispersal points in 30 seconds. Lisa suddenly tensed at her station. Captain. 2 Krell scout ships altering course. They've detected the torpedo launches. Stone remained calm. Launch remaining torpedoes. Now. The final 4 torpedoes streaked away from the Defiant, racing toward their targets as 2 Krell scout ships changed direction, moving to investigate. Thorium dispersal in progress, reported the weapons officer as the torpedoes reached their coordinates and released their payload, not with explosions, but with silent clouds of glittering dust spreading through space. Pulsar rotation reaching critical point in 10 seconds, Reed announced. Stone tapped his comm, all hands, activate radiation protocols. Shield your eyes. Even from behind the asteroid field, the bridge crew could see it happen. The pulsar flared brilliantly, its deadly radiation beam sweeping through space like a scythe. When it struck the thorium clouds, the effect was immediate and catastrophic. The radiation amplified exponentially, creating a cascade wave that spread outward in a blinding flash. 17 Krell ships caught in the wave simply went dark, their systems overloaded by the intense radiation burst. Direct hit. Lisa exclaimed. 17 enemy vessels disabled. Their shields collapsed completely. Stone allowed himself a small smile. Launch conventional weapons. Target their propulsion systems. As the Defiant emerged from hiding to attack the helpless Krell ships, the remaining enemy vessels scrambled to regroup, caught completely by surprise by this second devastating attack from a ship they'd thought was running for its life. The Defiant surged forward, weapons blazing. Caught in the aftermath of the radiation wave, the disabled Krell ships were easy targets. One by one, their engines erupted in flames as the human vessels' precision strikes found their marks. 7 more enemy ships neutralized, the weapons officer reported with barely contained excitement. Stone nodded grimly. That's 24 down. Still 14 to go. The remaining Krell vessels had regrouped, forming a defensive perimeter well away from the pulsar's radiation path. Their initial confusion was giving way to coordinated action. They're adapting, Reed observed. Changing formation to protect against another radiation attack. As expected, Stone replied. But now they're bunched together, which gives us a different advantage. He turned to Lisa. Open a channel to the Krell commander. The alien's face appeared on screen, scales flushed dark with fury. You use trickery and cowardice instead of honorable combat, the Krell hissed. Stone leaned forward. I use knowledge and strategy. Your fleet has been cut in half. Withdraw now, and the rest of your ships can return home. The Krell commander bared sharp teeth. Krell, do not retreat. We will destroy you, human. Your choice. Stone cut the transmission and turned to his crew. They're going to charge us. Full frontal assault. Davis, who had remained on the bridge, stepped forward. Captain, I might have an option. Thunderbolt is fried, but the phase coils could be repurposed. If we overload them near the Krell formation. Stone caught on immediately. An EMP burst? Precisely, Davis nodded. We'd need to get close though. Dangerously close. Reed frowned. That would leave us without shields for at least 30 seconds. And the Krell will fire everything they have, Lisa added. Stone studied the tactical display, calculating angles and distances. We don't need to get that close, he finally said. We just need them to think we are. He pointed to a region of space between their position and the Krell formation. There's a pocket of ionized gas here, left from our earlier battle. If we can ignite it, it would carry the EMP effect much farther, Davis finished, eyes widening. Stone nodded. Set a course. Full impulse power. Prepare the phase coils for one final burst. The Defiant turned, engines flaring as it headed directly toward the waiting Krell warships. To all appearances, it looked like a suicide run. They're taking the bait, Lisa reported, her voice tight with tension. All remaining Krell vessels moving to intercept. Weapons hot. The Defiant rocketed forward, seeming to commit to a head-on collision with the Krell formation. On the view screen, 14 enemy warships grew larger by the second, their weapons ports glowing with deadly energy. Distance to ionized gas pocket? Stone asked, his composure unwavering. 20 seconds, Reed answered. Krell weapons locking on. Stone's hand hovered over the command console. Prepare to vent plasma from the starboard nacelles on my mark. Davis, status of the phase coils? Ready but unstable, Davis replied from engineering. We'll get one shot at this. After that, the coils will be completely burnt out. The ship trembled as the first volley of Krell weapons fire grazed their forward shields. Shields at 42%, the tactical officer warned. Hold course, Stone commanded. The crew gripped their stations, trust in their captain outweighing their fear. 5 seconds to optimal position, Reed counted down. Stone's eyes never left the tactical display. 3, 2, 1. Now. Vent plasma and activate phase coils. The Defiant lurched as superheated plasma erupted from its starboard side, pushing the ship hard to port, away from the direct path of the oncoming Krell warships. Simultaneously, the repurposed phase coils discharged their final burst of energy. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The ionized gas ignited in a brilliant flash, carrying the electromagnetic pulse outward like a tsunami. It washed over the Krell fleet just as they fired their main weapons. Throughout the enemy formation, ships went dark as systems overloaded and shut down. Weapons fire dissipated harmlessly. Propulsion systems failed, leaving the mighty warships drifting helplessly in space. Direct hit. Davis shouted over the comm, all Krell vessels showing massive power fluctuations. Stone didn't waste the opportunity. All functioning weapons, fire at will. Target their life support and engine cores. The Defiant swept past the paralyzed Krell fleet, unleashing everything in its arsenal. One by one, the enemy ships surrendered as systems failed and crews faced the choice between capitulation and death by vacuum. The last to surrender was the Krell flagship. On the view screen, the commander's face appeared, devoid of its earlier arrogance. "How?" the alien asked simply. "How did one ship defeat our fleet?" Stone rose from his command chair, standing tall despite his exhaustion. "We didn't just bring a better weapon. We brought better thinking. Remember that the next time you consider attacking human space." As the Defiant limped away, escorting its Krell prisoners toward human territory, word of the impossible victory was already spreading throughout the stars. One ship against a fleet, and the one ship had won. The legend of the Defiant, and Captain Jack Stone, had just been born.